I read 7 books in May, 6 being mystery thrillers. Let's recap them. Starting with The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. So it's about this woman who lives in a house by herself. She has a lot of trauma, therefore she will not go outside. I forgot the term, but she has a fear of big openings of like just like the sky and things like that because of said trauma. So to keep herself entertained, she drinks a lot of wine, she takes a lot of meds, and she watches a lot of movies, but most importantly, she watches her neighbors outside the window. And a new family moves into the house across the street, and so she starts watching them, and then she sees something happen, and from then on you're kind of unsure whether or not she actually saw it due to her substance abuse. This book was very like twisty, like it had a lot of roads. It's very like dark and eerie, but I was so hooked. And I believe there's a movie out from this book. It's a bit too dark for my personal preference. I'm okay with just the book. For some reason, I'm okay with reading some like dark mystery thrillers, but it's kind of rare that I would actually watch a movie with that story, if that makes sense, because I don't do well with jump scares. I don't know if that makes sense, but long story short, this one was fun. I rated this 4 stars because I think even though it was so dark and eerie, and I mentioned this in my last video, but I have this thing about mystery thrillers where they either have a very dark, eerie vibe that's like creepy and like unenjoyable, or just you're curious, it's a mystery, like it's not as dark, or even if it is, it's still entertaining. I feel like this goes in between. And not that the dark ones aren't entertaining, but some of them are just really, they give you that icky feeling. But this one I feel like is kind of right in the middle. And I got this book thrifting, which is why the pages are very yellow. Next we have The Wife Between Us by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Buchanan. I'm so sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but this has been on my TBR since I first became a reader back in 2022, and it's been sitting on my shelf for a while. As you'll be able to see with all of these books, I've been in such a mystery thriller mood, like I've been craving it. So I was very excited to go into this because I thought I had an idea of how this book would go. I was wrong. It definitely like wasn't what I was expecting. I feel like the cover describes the book perfectly, but it says, when you read this book, you will make many assumptions. You will assume you are reading about a jealous ex-wife. You will assume she is obsessed with her replacement, a beautiful younger woman who is about to marry the man they both love. You will assume you know the anatomy of this tangled love triangle. Assume nothing. This one had a pretty good plot twist, but at the same time, I felt like it wasn't anything crazy. I don't know. I rated it 3 stars, but I did have a good time reading this, and it was something that I kept, I would say all of the books that I read this month, I kept picking up and I kept gravitating towards. Next we have such an anticipated read for me that I have put off for over a year for some reason. I don't know why I'm like this with books I'm really excited about. I either read it first thing, like as soon as I get it, or I wait like a year. I don't know why. When it's one that I'm really looking forward to, then my expectations get kind of high. But with that said, the book I'm referring to is Home is Where the Bodies Are, and I got this really cool edition that looks like a VHS tape. I love it. I am so in love with this cover. I don't know why more publishers and authors don't create cooler books or packaging like this. This is Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. If you don't follow her and her husband on Instagram or TikTok at this point, you really should, because they are honestly kind of the reason why I read her books, because they are hit or miss. I really did enjoy The Perfect Marriage, excited to read The Perfect Divorce. Her other books have been like hit or miss for me, but I just really enjoy her as a person. I think that they are so funny and very human. So I am a little bit biased, but this story is about 3 siblings who have not talked in a very long time, but their mother has passed away, and so now they have to come back to their childhood home, kind of figure out what they're doing with it, go through the will, and it kind of just brings them together. But once they start going through their parents' belongings, they find a videotape where some incident happened that has become a huge mystery in their family. I was very hooked. I thought it was very interesting. I did predict the plot twist, which I wasn't expecting. Looking back on it, I'm surprised that I figured it out. I feel like at this point, because I read so many mystery thrillers, it's really hard to get me, but this was a fun read. I did enjoy. 3.75 stars. Next we have Everyone Here Is Lying by Sherry Lapina. This book has been sitting on my TBR cart for a very long time. I was excited to finally get to this, but if I'm honest, I'm struggling to remember what this book is about. I remember what all the other ones are about, but this one I'm kind of struggling, so one second. Right, okay. So for this story, we have a couple with their 9-year-old daughter. The husband has been having an affair with a woman up the street, and one afternoon it ends pretty badly, and he comes home in the afternoon to find that his daughter is at the house, and she's 9 years old. She shouldn't be there alone. She was supposed to wait for her brother at the school, and he gets very frustrated, but next thing we know, she disappears. This definitely takes you on a roller coaster. There were lots of twists and turns. I was very surprised by like 2/3 in. Some of the things that get revealed, I don't know. This one I rated 4 stars, but looking back, I feel like I would probably do 3.75 just because I struggled to remember the plot. I do recommend this though. It was fun. Next we have 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think by Brianna Wiest. Is that how you pronounce that? As you can see, I tabbed this up quite a bit. I haven't tabbed up a book like this, I don't think, since Happy Place, and this is from my boyfriend reading it. But this is just one of those kind of casual reads. This I've read off and on for years, but finally got a bit more consistent with it back in April. But it's great. It's just all about plenty of different topics that you should kind of think about as an adult. I think that this is a great casual read. I personally don't think that I could just sit and like binge through it. That's just my personal preference. I rated this 4.5 stars. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it. I'm just not like obsessed with it, but it's really great for rethinking or like approaching life topics a bit differently. And that is the only book that is not a mystery thriller on this list. The next book is another book by Sherry Lapina, which I didn't realize until just now, but we have Not a Happy Family. This is another one that's just been sitting on my TBR for a very long time. I almost DNF'd it at the beginning, but I did get pretty hooked. So this is about a very wealthy family that spends Easter dinner together, and they're bickering. You know, everyone's kind of selfish, everyone has their own motives, and then suddenly later that night the parents get brutally murdered in their own home, and supposedly all of the kids have left by then, so it becomes this very big town mystery, and all of the kids kind of have motives because the family is very, very wealthy. So you are led down quite a few different paths of just trying to figure out who did this, who would actually do something so brutal and gruesome, whether it was one of the kids or if someone else came into the home. But once again, I kind of guessed the plot twist. I don't know if that's just me being an overthinker or if it's obvious. I'm really not sure, but this was still a fun ride and I would recommend. And I rated this 3.75 stars. And last but not least, this is actually my favorite book from the month, and that is Ruth Ware's The It Girl. This book, once again, has been sitting on my shelf. I've been flying through my DBR. I'm so proud of myself, and I'm so glad that I picked it up, and I can now see why it's so popular. I really enjoyed this, and I got somewhat attached to the characters, which is always a huge bonus for me, especially for a mystery thriller. I feel like for mystery thrillers, they're usually pretty shallow, so it was nice to kind of like get those deeper connections with this book, in my opinion. But it follows a group of friends, including our main character Hannah, who befriends the It Girl, who kind of introduces her to these other friends, and Hannah and April become pretty good friends. They become best friends, they're roommates, they get very, very close, but then unfortunately Hannah finds April dead in their room. Now fast forward about 10 years to present day in the book. The person that was convicted of April's death is one of the university porters, which I had to Google what that was because I genuinely didn't know. But it's a staff member who performs a variety of tasks to support the smooth functioning of a college or university campus. But he was very, very creepy. So Hannah has already had some creepy interactions with this porter. There's very little evidence that kind of shows that he was the one to murder her. Therefore, he has been in jail for the last 10 years. Then he passes away. And with his passing, she is now pregnant and married to one of the other friends from the group. They are very much happy to be putting that chapter of their lives behind them, but Hannah starts having some doubts, and therefore she goes on her own little rabbit hole to try to figure out if that was the truth, and if not, who really killed April. I think this was very well written. It had a dual, I'm trying to think of the term for it, but it kept going back and forth between the past and the present. So far, I've very much enjoyed Ruth Ware's books, and just when I thought I had the plot twist figured out, there was another plot twist. I rated this a 4.75 stars. If you haven't read this yet, you totally should. And if you have, let me know what you thought in the comments. Now, if you watched my last video, you may be wondering if I have finished Great Big Beautiful Life, and I have not. To be honest, between trying to savor it, but also like the real excuse is that I'm trying to vlog reading it, and life has been very, very busy lately, and so I just haven't had a moment to like physically read it and give updates about my thoughts. I have gone a tiny bit further, and I am still very much enjoying it, and I'm excited to finish it because I feel like I'm just going to binge it, but I will be finishing this in June. Mark my words, I will definitely be finishing this, and I'm excited to be able to talk about it and to be able to review it. So that is my May reading wrap up. I feel like I had a pretty successful month, especially with the mystery thrillers, but for the most part, none of them were very disappointing. Let's see if I can beat my 7-book record next month and maybe read 8 books. So stay tuned for my June TBR, which will be coming very, very soon, along with some other fun videos that I have up my sleeve. But if you want to see more content, feel free to follow me along on TikTok or on Instagram. I don't post as much on Instagram, but I am pretty active on my stories. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. It means the absolute world to me. I cannot believe that I'm already at 300 subscribers. It is such a heartwarming feeling, so thank you so much, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!